Before coming into that final round, Berger was certainly under the radar. In fact, entirely overlooked, really coming into the Charles Schwab Challenge. Next time you see him, Robert, teeing it up on that leaderboard, will you hold him sort of in a different regard in comparison to those marquee names going forward?
Well, not quite yet. I think, to quote Dennis Green, Berger is who I thought he was, and that's a really good player, capable of winning any week. I'm not throwing him up there with the top 10 in the world just yet, but he does have the talent and ability to win any given week, and it was good to see because he had been struggling for so long, and frankly, before the shutdown, he had three straight top tens, which surprised me because he had done it quietly in ninth at Phoenix, fifth at Pebble, fourth at Honda. But before that, before Phoenix, he had only had one top 10 since the U.S. Open. So those wrist injuries, they're tough. And I knew it'd take him some time to get over. And if he did get over it, he could easily be back where he was. And again, a course like this, especially firm golf course where he can hit that little low cut off the tee and work it into the fairway, yeah, he could be dangerous any given week, but we've got a little ways to go to crown him up there with the cream of the crop.
Well, here's the thing. He hails from that class of 2011, that vaunted high school class that includes Jordan Spieth and Justin Thomas. So he will be compared to those two and others quite a bit throughout his career. Those two players, for example, have double-digit wins on the PGA Tour. Daniel now has three. But I tell you what, I mean, he's beaten some quality players before. In fact, when he won in Memphis for the first time, he beat Brooks Koepka, Phil Mickelson, and Steve Stricker by 3 shots. He's represented his country in the Arnold Palmer Cup and the U.S. President's Cup team as well. So I think he's shown some toughness coming back from this wrist injury. Played beautifully in Fort Worth, but he's well behind his peers just because they've had, clearly careers that are on a trajectory to the Hall of Fame, where so far Daniel has been more solid than spectacular.
I agree with you, Damon, but I also feel like there's a sense of almost a rebirth of Daniel Berger since the injury. I noticed, obviously, the great play at the start of the season. And I actually read an article back in January and I revisited it yesterday. And it talked about how much he loved the game and didn't know it until it was taken away from him, until the injury and he was away from the game. He was like, well, actually, I kind of enjoy doing other things. And then he learned how much he wanted to get back on the golf course because he was away from it. And I was looking at that thinking, imagine how he felt during the pandemic when he's playing the best golf of his life. He's finally in love with the game again. And then it's taken away from him. I think this is a different Daniel Berger than we saw when he first got out on tour. So I'm going to, be patient with him and give him a year or two to prove that he does deserve to be in that caliber, because I think he very well could, because now he's got the hunger and the attitude to go along with the skill that we'd already seen.
You know what, Paige? Your story and anecdote remind me of another Florida State Seminole who was injured for a stretch a couple of years ago and realized how much he loved the game of golf. And I'm, of course, talking about Brooks Koepka. And I tell you what, Daniel Berger has big dreams in this game, and he wants to be included in the conversations of Brooks Koepka, Jordan Spieth, Justin Thomas, and the best players in the world over the last 5 years. And I do think there's something to that. A player who has his or her livelihood taken away, when they get back, I think their perspective does change.
Being part of that class of 2011, Robert, and bursting out onto the scene as Rookie of the Year in 2015, he had such a solid start to his career, but then to be sidelined sort of as of the 2018 US Open with these wrist issues, he's had to show some absolute relentless dedication and just to get over the frustrations of watching his peers go on and achieve huge things, which I imagine from what he's said in the past has created a huge source of motivation for him. But what does it show you about the grit that Daniel Berger has to overcome setbacks like he has?
Well, you can have all the grit in the world, and if your wrist is bad and you can't practice, there's really nothing you can do but sit at home and stew about it and try to rehab it. What he did say in the post-round interview is that obviously his wrist is healthy, that in the last month or so, he has practiced harder than anyone, and he knows it. So when he gets to Colonial, one, he knows he's playing well because he was playing well before the lockdown. Two, he knows he deserves something special. So you get out there. No one's worked harder than me. I'm going to get out there. I'm going to let my game do the talking. but mentally he's very, very tough, knowing he outworked everyone else. You heard him say it, and the emotion that came over him, he believes it.
Born into a family of elite athletes. I think that work ethic was just born into him, and it's paid off. So a huge congratulations to Daniel Berger. But it was complete heartbreak for a 23-year-old Collin Morikawa, who came up just short of his second win on the PGA Tour. And afterwards, he spoke to our own Todd Lewis as to what he was thinking in that tough moment.
Just hit a bad putt. I mean, my mind can't go much else other than what just happened on that hole. I'm going to have to look back at this week and see what positives I can take out of it. Obviously, it was a solid week overall, but just didn't get the job done. I had a putt on 18 to win it over, outright, and didn't make that. So, yeah.
Such a tough way to lose, Paige. I think it will be quite a while before Collin gets over that. But if you were Daniel Berger, and this may seem like a silly question, but does it take any sort of shine off the trophy, or do you feel bad when you see your opponent lose in that way?
I mean, you can certainly have empathy or sympathy for the other player, but it does not take the shine off the trophy. The reality is that kind of thing happens throughout the round. It's obviously very noticeable because it happens on the 18th hole or in the playoff in this situation. But for any player, the idea is you want to put yourself in a position to win, whether that's go grab the trophy or whether that's be there if somebody in front of you stumbles. And that's exactly what Daniel Berger did.
As an athlete, you don't want to see another athlete fail, really, per se, but don't think that Berger was sitting there rooting for him to make the putt. He was more than fine with it. When we say after, you don't want to win like that, I hate to see it for him, those are just words. Those are just things they say. I mean, do you think the 86 Mets felt bad for Bill Buckner? No, they were loving the fact that the ball rolled between his legs and it kept them alive. They didn't want to see this guy. It happened to this human being, but as an athlete, yes, that's what they want to see. And you're there to win. You win any way you can get. Winning's hard. So if you expect to just go out and dominate and win like Tiger in the 2000 U.S. Open, it's not going to happen. You take the breaks you get and go on. And again, Berger's got nothing to be unhappy about. He played his behind off and earned that win.
Well, Paige, what about Morikawa? Where does he go from here? He's been tabbed as the next great player. Put him on Ryder Cup teams and President's Cup teams. We talk about his incredible swing. This was a big moment for him on 18 and the playoff. How long will this kind of shadow him?
Oh, I'm sure it'll sting for a lot of his career. I mean, that doesn't go away. But there are other things that he can point to that he did very well. If you look at the 14th hole and how he was able to hit a great shot there, and then the 17th bunker shot, you gotta hang your hat on whether it's making a long putt or a good bunker shot, and move forward knowing that you were gritty at those moments when you needed to too.
Damon, in your opinion, this one, as you mentioned, is going to sting for a while for Morikawa. Is this something that he should walk away looking at the positives, that he's been in contention once again, made the cut once again, he's never missed the cut? Or is it going to be more of a feeling of I didn't convert and I lost the opportunity?
See, I think it could be both. And the great athletes, they let it burn. I remember famously reading about Magic Johnson losing in the playoffs in the championship to the Boston Celtics in 1984, and he spent the entire offseason ruining his poor play, threw the ball away in a crucial spot, shot an air ball in a crucial juncture in Game 7 at the Boston Garden. And Magic spent the entire offseason working on his jumper, working on his game, and they came back the next year and avenged that loss in the championship to the Boston Celtics. You hear about the work ethic of players, the hunger, the fire of turning disappointment into greatness. And I think that Collin Morikawa this will hurt and it will burn and it should burn. But I also think it could be fuel for the tank that kind of lends to more greatness and leads to more greatness down the road.
Well, here's what's important, Damon, for Collin Morikawa, whether this he can take a positive away from this week or whether it's going to be in his mind the next time he has an important putt from 3 or 4 feet. Does he know why he missed the putt? Does he know why he hit a bad putt on 18 in regulation? And does he know why he hit a bad putt in the playoff? If he knows why, he can not do it again the next time. He can say, I'm never going to make that same mistake, most likely mental, again, and learn from it. If he doesn't really know why and he just hit a bad putt, he's going to absolutely question his ability to make the putts when he needs to. So that's a question really only he can answer. So this could be a very, very valuable learning experience going forward, or it can really put a dent in his confidence, just depending on if he knows exactly why he missed the putt or he just missed it.
You know, and I think that's a great point, Robert, because a lot of people can look at this as a failure, that he somehow didn't succeed in this moment. But if he takes away from it a learning experience and gets better from it, he'll understand this is a journey, not a destination for this week, and that it isn't a failure. It is just an opportunity to get better.
Especially when you looked at just how stacked the field was, and to walk away how he did with the top 5 players in the world, not really putting that much pressure on at all. So congratulations again for Daniel Berger.